I see you.
You don't want to. Good afternoon. This is the Hood River White Salmon Bridge Authority meeting. And thank you for hanging with us. We were having a little bit of technical difficulty here on our end and we got it resolved. So I think we'll get going. Kelly, I think looks to me like we have a full quorum with Arthur and Mike Fox here from Hood River. And Catherine as well.
Present.
And we've got myself, Jake Anderson, Mark Flaming, Keith Hirschman, and Ben Berger here from Washington.
I think it's Jake Edwards to Jake.
Yeah, can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, thank you, Jake.
Which one of us, of the Washington alternates, you want to vote?
So it would be Eric, Jake, and then Jacob Anderson, and then Mark would be commissioner.
So Mark's on the hot seat today. All right.
Can you remind
Are there any modifications or sorry.
Catherine said something too. She's the other voting.
Okay, I think I have her.
Can
So
you-
Catherine, you will be voting
Thank you.
today. So modifications or additions to the agenda?
I've got one. I'd appreciate if we spend a few minutes on the May the 21st career day. And get everybody up to speed of what we're doing and where we're heading. And see what kind of involvement you'd like to have.
And I have a 1 minute addition to the governance meeting report, which is out of cycle, but
Okay. All right. Great. We'll get both of those added. And I'm sure someone will help me not forget. So. Previous meeting minutes from March 23rd. Any?
Chair, I make a to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That carries. Public comment. So we'll go ahead and do 3 minutes per person. We do not have anyone here in the room today, so everybody's online. Go ahead and raise your hand if you would like to comment. Let Amy you see a hand go up, Amy. I think we're just seeing partial. Okay, not seeing any comments. We'll move on to the next section, executive reports. I do not have anything to add today, and Grant is not here, so we'll go right on to the director.
All right, we continue to coordinate with FHWA on the treaty MOAs. The one that we've signed back in February is still working through FHWA. They would like to have some additional consultation with the tribes around the construction access road that was outside of what was previously cleared. So we heard from ODOT this morning that that's going to be at least about a 30-day process for them to do the consultation that needs to happen. So I would say at least probably 30 to 60 days from having FHWA signature on that Umatilla agreement. We are working on setting up the meeting with the Office of the Secretary of Transportation on our infra grant. So we'll get that meeting set up. We wanted to have the DC meeting first. We'll work on getting a meeting with them just to walk through the infra grant so that there is clarity around what they received, and we can hear back if they've got any questions about what they received. We'll get that set up the next few
And we do
weeks.
have a copy of what they actually received.
We do have a copy of what they received, so we'll make sure they fully understood that. If they've got any questions before they get started reviewing it, that they've had a chance to document that.
And we've gone through it. We don't have any problems with the way it was rewritten.
No, it was sent the way we expected it to. There are still, just so everybody remembers, this went to them with the two parts, the 75 million and the 125 million from FHWA. Now, we've heard that it would, also the Secretary of Transportation might want to combine that or not allow that separation. So we may get a pretty early feedback from them on that, but we want to have that conversation with them before they get too far into their review cycle and not.
Benefit is would allow us to mitigate some of the unknown risks coming up, and we could spend some money trying to put some of those to bed before we get a full.
Yeah, items like the test pal program and things like that could be funded out of that. So it would help us to be able to do some of that additional evaluation. The CDS money, we're working through that with ODOT. We've sent them some step updates. We got some comments last week from Rob. So we'll continue to coordinate through Rob to get the congressionally directed spending funded to the project. Once we do, then we can figure out what's we would like to use that money for. I just want to remind everybody that that is not extra money. That just shrinks the gap of what we needed for our phase 1B work that we were already planning to do. So it's not an extra $8 million that we can go do something new with. It's funding what we had already planned, and we probably will still need to make some decisions related to what we fully fund within that phase 1B. So
Final break.
Yep. The bridge monitoring, Cubit's still working on that. They had a few issues with some of the equipment that was installed, the vibration monitors. There's a couple of them that they're still trying to tweak a little bit. They've got
Worried that they had a problem with.
Yeah. They've got the ropes team coming back out so they can go down and take a look at it. I believe that's happening next week. James can correct me if that's wrong. So they'll be out to do that and hopefully get all of those online. And
How many are there total?
one at every pier.
One at every pier.
20, around 20 of them.
Yeah, so there's a
So it's not
a
a,
tilt sensor and there's a vibration monitor.
okay.
on each.
So it's a couple of, it's a moderate percentage. It's not
Yeah,
like.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 out of 20.
Great.
So, we are getting data. So from the ones that are up and running, we're getting data back. So we're still collecting that data. But we just want to get these all online and running. So they're working through that. Once we get that baseline kind of established, they're also working on developing a tile test pile program that will use that monitoring equipment to determine if there are any impacts to the existing structure through the construction methodology that we're used. So they're narrowing that plan down. We're going to start reviewing that and working through what that's going to look like. So we would like to do that, or we need to do that this in our work window. So we're working through the permitting on that, which is going to take some time to do that. It's going to push probably being able to do the actual plan work to early next year. So it makes it very tight for us to be able to get through that. And if we find any issues, get them resolved so that we can make that 27 date. So it's kind of critical path now is to get this test pile program done as soon as possible. So the permitting is moving forward. We're getting a permit, the application stuff submitted, but given the timing of how long it's taken to get approval of those permits, we're giving 120 days for the DNR and 180 for, Christie, what's the 180 day one?
Yeah, that's for DNR.
It was 120 for the DNR and 100, was it 180 for DNR? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some lengthy time in there. They could go faster, but given the way it's been so far, we're giving their full time because it's been taking them that. So
Could you remind me, what's the in-water window in the Columbia?
October to March, middle of October to middle of March.
The first of October.
Is it first? Okay, through the 15th of March.
The criticality of this is that if the test pile program shows that we're hurting the current bridge, that means we have to have enough time to either redo the design on the trestles on the islands or beef up the current bridge? And think about the second one.
We'll put little floaties around the piers.
Well, no.
We don't know. Let's not get too worried about that right now. That's,
Well,
we will need to look
the
into it,
reason,
but
the reason why I bring this up is it is really critical that we get through that test trial program as early as we can.
Right. So
To give us
that's what critical
about
path is.
The best chance of hitting the second in waterway window.
the sooner we know, the better. Fiscal year 26 bridge investment program is still pending. We haven't heard anything about a debrief on the fiscal year 25 yet. So we'll keep our ear out for that. If we want to, we could talk about the DC trip now.
Okay, have we made the request for a down brief?
We are waiting for, they typically will call out and let you know when the briefing window opens, and they haven't done that yet. They'll usually come out and say, hey, we're opening up the debriefing, and then you call in. We've let them know when we were out there, we want the debrief, but it hasn't opened up yet. Do we want to cover the trip now? You want to do that? You want to kick us off and then?
Great. Yeah, I think everybody knows last week the project sent a delegation of folks out to Washington, DC for a round of meetings. This was in coordination also with the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association, Trade Association, known as PNWA. That project Bridge Authority is a part of. They advocate for Columbia Snake River issues. And so 5 of us went out and did a round of meetings. We met with U.S. Department of Transportation, the White House, and I think our entire congressional delegation, right?
I think we hit everyone at the end. Yeah,
All 4 senators plus
we did.
Congressman Newhouse,
Yep.
Congresswoman Dexter, and also Representative Betts, just to our east here. So I was out there, Michael Shannon, Commissioner Berger, Commissioner Thomas, and our summit strategies lobbyists were there as well. Yes, Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about the US DOT meeting?
Yeah, so we started off the meeting with Build America Bureau. That was a good meeting and no real changes to their program. There is a piece of their program, it's called Value for Money. It really is around P3. They just want to know that you've looked at it. So there's some documentation there that they hadn't been historically asking for previously, even though it was kind of stuff that you needed to do or part of the program that they typically did. They had not pushed it real heavily. So they wanted us to go back and said that we will need to do that. They're pushing that across the country. It wasn't unique to our project. It's just something that they've got focus on right now. So we're going back and doing that just to document that, yeah, we did look at P3. It was an option that we considered, and here's why we ruled it out. So we'll document that so we have it. But no real changes to the program. We asked them if there was any new rulings or any new changes that we should be aware of, and they said no. So we're going to reach out to our local contact, Lucinda Eagle, who's been on the project for a couple of years now, and set up a meeting with her just to get her up to speed on our investment grade and the fact that we're moving some of those items forward. In order to meet the schedule. They did ask us about the schedule and when we needed the money, and they thought that we were right on track with needing to start it now because it's about a 12-month process to get through it. So they said, yeah, definitely not wait on that, but go ahead and get it going. So
Did you challenge them at all about that one project in
we
California?
didn't get into, no, basically what we did was ask them if there was any changes or anything that we needed to know that was different than any previous conversations we've had. And they said no, that there had not been any changes to the program. So they may have just simply not had that BFM criteria because they said that was fairly new, that they were pushing that a little more than before. So maybe that was it. But they said that
It also shows them that we're checking.
yeah. So
What
value for money, it's
what happened in California?
there was a project that had went through the TIFIA process, and typically people that are familiar with the process, when you get to a certain point, it's kind of I'll say rubber stamp to get through the final piece. Well, they got to that point and thought they were at the rubber stamp part and found out, no, they got denied. I don't know all the details of why they got denied, but that's why we wanted to ask the questions of if something had changed with the program. But they had no indications that there was any change to the program. So whatever happened with that project seems to have been specific to them.
A one-off.
Yeah. So Good news from there that there was no real major changes. We then met with USDOT and FHWA, had a good conversation with them. They talked about we asked about the fiscal year 26 BIP Bridge Investment Program. They said that they didn't have a lot of details on when we would know or if we would know or anything like that. They're pretty tight to the vest on some of that, but they did say that it was in like a preliminary stage and that they were asking some additional questions of some different groups. So we'll see what that means. But again, they didn't give us a time frame of when we would hear about the fiscal year 26. But the fact that they're still evaluating it is a good thing. We had some other additional conversations with them and with some others that it's really important that we make sure that our industry partners are not only sending letters, but also, verbally voicing their support for the project. So we're working to develop a plan for that. So we'll work with our lobbyists in DC on exactly how we want to do that, but making sure right now we're getting as much support information to them and keeping our project on the top of their mind so that as they're evaluating it, they are hearing and we're not, falling off the wayside or being forgotten about. So we'll continue to do that.
I don't know about the rest of the commission, but I would kind of like to see a list of who are we contacting to be our supporter. Just to make sure that we're all seeing it and are we missing something
Sure.
that staff may not know about.
Yep.
Meaning industry supporters.
Yeah.
This industry, what about tribal support?
We talked about that. We still have travel support. We've
Right.
always had their letters. We made sure to reinforce that while we were there, but
Maybe get someone fisheries to give us a little nudge.
we could talk to them about doing that and see if they'd be willing to maybe reach out and make some good thoughts. But yeah, that would be someone else that would be a good idea. So we'll put a list together of all the ones that we think of. We talked to Tidewater and Shaver and some of the barge companies. They had some good ideas as far as the material they move up and down and getting some of those industries to kind of secondarily say, hey, if we didn't have to navigate this 240-foot hole in the channel, 450-foot hole would reduce our risk of potential issues and maybe reduce their insurance risks and things like that. So, we'll reach out to all those groups about.
I'm also thinking of maybe the realtor organizations because they've got to have, people are living on the Washington side, working on the Oregon side because there's no housing over here. And how do we capture that and get them behind us as well?
Big one.
Don't say it.
Is there a commissioner that
His
living that life? I think so.
No, you said over here. There's no housing over here. You meant over there.
That's right. You're right.
So we also met with all our legislative members. As Dan said, all positive meetings. They all remembered the project. They were supportive of the project. I think the one thing we communicated to them and left them with was, the project has made progress, right? We came out the first time and they said, well, you need your state money, right? We got our state money. Well, you need to get your record of decision. We got a record of decision. You need to make some progress with the MOAs. We've made progress with the MOAs, right? So we keep chipping away. Right. You need to get your contractor on board. We got our contractor on board. You need to start design. We started design, right? So there's not a lot left for them to tell us to go do. So we made sure to communicate that to them, that this project is truly ready and turned dirt ready, as they say. So we made sure to communicate that to them as well. I think that resonated with them. If they really didn't give us a whole lot of actions of things that we're missing or things that we need to do. They felt like we've checked all the boxes. We went over our benefit cost analysis ratios and that the project has actually got a better ratio under this administration than it did under the previous administration, which, I think is all positive. So overall, I thought all the meetings were positive. All of them remembered the project. I mean, they were all kind of telling us things that we had said before and understood the project. We also were able to meet with the White House. The lady that we met there, we had met with last year. She remembered the project. She actually brought up some details before we actually brought them up. She said she was willing to make a phone call and just check on, the project as well. So we thought that was positive. So I feel like it went well. I feel like we, got our message out and, we'll see how it plays out. But I think keeping us at the top of their mind is good, because you never know when they're gonna walk out of a meeting and somebody's gonna go, I need a project, and go to construction right away, and hopefully ours is on the top of their mind, and they're like, this project we just heard about is the perfect project. So, and we told them, we could do a groundbreaking as early as this fall if we had to do a groundbreaking, right?
We'll do it tomorrow.
Right. I think we left them with some thoughts about things that they could do during this mid-cycle, as well as, future under this administration, so. Ben or Catherine, if there's.
One more comment about the bridge investment program review. What they mentioned was that it's still in the preliminary review phase. Typically, there's kind of that first part, and that's career staff that are doing that. They're crunching numbers and comparing what's in the applications to whatever their rubrics are, and then typically the pool of applicants gets culled down to a narrower bunch that then gets forwarded along to the politicals, who then take their time with it. And so that's kind of the next piece here. And so as we think about, as the project considers what advocacy looks like, getting that in before it moves to those political folks, career staff, they're just there for the nuts and bolts of it. They're, plugging in numbers and it's more objective. Then once it moves to the political, they factor in kind of some of these finer points that we're working to advocate.
So they've already established their criteria and the staffs are measuring our proposals against their criteria.
And if they follow the original criteria, we should score really well.
Okay. For 26.
And we've always been, if you remember, even our first application was highly recommended. And we've only really tightened it up and got better from there. When they redid the benefit cost analysis from 25 to 26, our number went up. So it actually got a little better under the new administration. So as far as checking all the boxes of being eligible, we're less than the 80% that the feds typically put in. We're less than the 50% limit on the bridge investment program. All of those things. We check all the boxes.
So we should come out of this in the competitive range.
Yes.
Yeah,
we should.
Okay.
All right.
Just a couple other comments. So they did also tell us that they're, to expect the small bridge investment program to be released shortly. So that uses that same $3.3 billion pot of money to fund bridges less than $100 million. And so that is, it seemed like they were telling us that that's kind of where their attention is, right now. There's, I guess just for our conjecture was that, likely they'll try and release this money before the midterms. So, it's kind of in the timing range that works for us to find out about large bridge. I think, I came away from that meeting, I'll just speak personally, kind of having a lot of, positive affirmations that we're doing all the right things, but also coming away with the impression that we are asking for a really significant amount of money relative to the amount of money that's outstanding and the number of projects that are in the pool. And that, we should expect that this is going to be, a very competitive process. And that, this is, especially with where we're at on the project and being ready to go to construction, that next year that we really need to treat the next, 3 months or 5 months, however long it takes until they announce the awards, to really leave nothing on the table as far as, any contact that we think may have any pull, any person that we think, may be able to, think positively about our project, either, within, our local or regional stakeholder group or, within DC, people we can reach out to, even if they're kind of connections of connections, that, we are unlikely to be kind of one of the department's sort of favorite picks, just politically, but that, we have enough going for us that if we can build the type of support that we have a chance of winning, on kind of the project's merits and where we are and being ready to go to construction. So I think it was really motivating to, try and come back and rally to say, okay, there's a lot of things that we can do that are not necessarily directly, wouldn't traditionally be like, what we would need to do for advocacy, but, it's like we were saying about trying to get, a lot of the stakeholder groups engaged, trying to figure out who are all the people, in DC that are going to potentially touch this project, either all the way from kind of the people that are recommending it all the way to the people that are making the decisions, and make sure that, we are, that they're all as familiar and aware of, the support that the project has.
Ben, did they give you any kind of hint of how big of a number the small projects are going to add up to be? Out of the 3.3, did they say $1 billion of it's going to be set aside for the small projects?
No, there was no indication. I mean, the only anecdotal thing, and this didn't come from DOT, was that I think this came from the senior HNTB person, was just that we should expect that there'll be twice as many sort of highly rated, highly desirable projects as will get funded.
Well, I would guess, most big projects are at least $500 million to $1 billion plus.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have $1 billion plus and all the rest of them are $500 million, they're not going to award a bunch of large projects.
And they may not. I mean, they only did 2 for the fiscal year 25. So, I mean, it is possible
Well, it's
that they
something
only
that they
do 3 or 4.
use up all the money.
Right.
That means a whole bunch of smaller projects and a couple of big ones.
But a lot of the big ones that we've been competing against haven't gotten awards, right? Brent Spence, IBR.
There's only got another 100 and something out there.
I just said some of the big ones. I didn't say all of them.
Do we know how many highly rated?
We could go back and pull the list that came out of our
Just order of magnitude.
24.
Maybe carry notes.
I don't remember the number. I think.
What's the question? How many highly rated projects
Were there
left over at the end of the last cycle?
Carrie, do you have that list handy of the projects that were highly ranked from like 24?
Oh, look, I don't recall seeing that list. Are you sure we have such a list?
Yeah, shoot Reddy an email. We got something that showed a list of the highly ranked projects at the end when we debriefed on our 24.
Was it greater than 5?
Yeah, it was greater than 5, less
yeah.
than 25. Somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly what it was.
So if we want this, we're going to have to really pull the stops out.
Yeah, I mean, we need to.
More so than we've ever done on this project. And we got 2 months to do it.
Well, and it seems like it's twofold. There's maybe a grassroots avenue, and then there's an industry business.
Yeah.
That are 2 kind of tracks.
What do you mean the grassroots? I mean, no,
Well, maybe maybe there's something where you go down and just, we need the community to set up a way so it's easy for the community to express their needs, and then also target a series of businesses and or things. I'm just saying, is there a way to do people that are watching, sign into here, let your representative know, let your senator know, I don't know how we.
And we're working on a plan for that. So we'll bring that back out to everybody on we don't want to just shotgun it and have 1,000 people calling everybody under the sun. We'd like to kind of organize this. Yeah, it would be through Summit. So we want to kind of organize it, get people some good direction, some sample letters or things that they can use, and make sure the right messages are getting taken.
So but pushing you a little bit.
Yeah.
When will we have that program?
When can we have a plan at the end of the week?
Summit already today.
Okay.
I mean, we will have a list by Wednesday.
Okay, but that's a list of industry. How about the program to get the public behind us and warm them with love and care?
I think we need to have a deeper conversation about Summit and what the highest value contact is.
Is that a good
what
idea?
I've gotten from them so far is the closer an organization is with folks within DOT, the more high value that is. If they're picking up the phone from somebody that they know, that's really where we're finding value at this point.
But there may still be like, for example, like if we can put together people that can reach out to their congressionals, right? Maybe that gets the congressionals to make another phone call, or to get, Patty Murray to make a call directly versus her staff calling. So it's not to say that there isn't a place for the individuals as well.
And I think that's what we need to talk about is how do we do the state to be able to have key state people call, and then federally, how will we get the bigger businesses to call?
Yeah.
How do you organize it so it's effective rather than a lot of work?
Yeah, or just a shotgun of like,
and less work on the recipient side as well.
Yeah, or that we're not making a bunch more work for the congressionals too, because we do have really, all of the representatives we met with they're busy, but they're also like, we're here for you guys. We really like this project, we want to see this project move forward. So how do we make it,
I only
bonus for
this
them?
hard, guys, is we only have 8 weeks to get it done.
Yeah.
If it takes us 6 weeks to get our thoughts together for a program, we're done.
It won't take us that long.
Wheels are on the engine.
So, Catherine, do you have something you'd like to add?
Yes, please. I think that everything was very much summarized correctly by our amazing staff and by Commissioner Berger. The only thing I want to add is there is a plan. It's being created right now, and a lot of it actually came to us from other individuals at PNWA. So I do want to plug our participation in PNWA was very beneficial. When we had the one-on-ones with different congressionals, or when the group had a congressional delegation come in, multiple people from different parts of PNWA spoke up and asked questions about our bridge. So other people are talking about it, which is great. It's not just the 12 commissioners and staff, right, directly linked to it. The other thing I just want to say is I think my eyes were open to the under the bridge advocates as well. And so there is a huge focus on the wheat growing industry and all that too as well. So there is a plan. The contacts are coming directly from PNWA, where Mr. Marr and myself and Mr. Shannon, had direct one-on-one contacts with them, and then also Commissioner Berger as well. But really the last 2 days of PNW was really great for our bridge because other people kind of talked to us about that. Shaver wants to bring whoever wants to come onto a tug so you can show us how they have to slide in sideways to actually make the turn. So that's really important. I think that'd be great for communications. But for Commissioner Fox, I can say there is a plan. I'm watching the plan be created. I'm guarantee you that the commission committee, the communications committee, will have a plan for you. And I would be happy to share or answer any questions after that. Thank you. Over.
Thank you.
Okay. That get us through anything else on?
Yeah, I think the only thing I had left, that was, I think, it for DC. The only thing I had left is, we've submitted and went through the 30% deliverable. Our staff has went through and provided comments back to CWIT. So I don't know if you want to say anything about the completeness of those plans.
It's what we expected. It's further along than what they expected, I think, what they claim they've done today, but still a lot of work to do on structurals. For the most part, some of the right of way needs a lot of work done, but otherwise, they got a lot of work to do to get to 60%. They will have the 60% ready to review here in another month or two, go into QC. So it's like, well, you're going to do in the next month or two that's going to get you further along than you are now. So it'll be interesting to see that. But then I truly think between 60 and there is where a lot of their work will be done. Like detail work.
And we do have a very clear definition of what we expect to see at 60. So we went through, pretty extensive negotiations with them, but Gabby's also spent time with Joe and their team defining all the sheets and what sheets are coming in. They're also going through the quantity tabs and what quantity calculations will be coming in. So we'll have a very defined expectation of what 60 is going to be. So that's that to be able to measure against and be able to understand where they are. So that'll be good.
I didn't follow that. Between 60 and 100, a lot of the detail will come in. What does that really mean?
So like the drainage, for instance, there's a lot of conflict with utilities and things like that that haven't been organized out, figured out.
Right.
So a lot of that's going to come later. So it's things like that. But otherwise,
concepts there, but details still have to be figured.
Yeah, that's what 30% is, just concept.
In terms of things that actually affect cost, cost and schedule, don't most of those things come in before 60?
Yeah. And you said 60 to 100, but I think it had to be 60.
I mean, 60 to 100. Structural, better the structure. Okay.
Well, the other thing between 60 and 100 is everything gets certified. All the calculations get reviewed and approved.
Right.
So it's a done thing. The other thing, we're driving for 60%. So first off, to make sure we're making progress. But the other piece of it is we want to pull an estimate at 60% and just validate that we're still holding our 1120.
That's exactly what I was trying to get to with my question.
So based on the status that the guys have seen, the superstructure, everything above the foundation is on schedule for a June 60% complete. The foundation itself, because of the permits and the geotech work in the water, is sliding to August. However, the June timeframe, we're going to know what the quantities are for those foundations, and they probably are not going to change.
We'll know there were no surprises, but
right. And we'll get an early release of it, so they're actually going into like their QC phase in July.
They being the
designer.
Okay.
So we'll get that version of it and be able to pull anything from that version while they go through their QC, which should not be a whole lot of change from there. And then we'll get the final version. So
in the geotech, to date, we've had no big surprises, right?
Big surprises.
And they're mostly done. There's
two more to do.
7
and 8.
Just waiting for
Which
permits.
we've got, they can start May 1st.
Okay.
So we've got all the permits now. They can begin that work May 1st.
So there's 2 in water we still have to do.
Yes.
There's a couple up on the Washington shoreline or up on top.
The bent 11, which is just in between the water and the railroad tracks up on the land. We're still waiting on a permit to go in and do that. They're going to do some ground penetrating radar, a version of that to determine where the rock depth is. And then they'll validate that with the boring when we get a permit.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it ground penetrating.
It's not the right term, but
It's something echo related.
Similar to that, electronic sensitivity or geophysical. You take a geophone, put it on the ground, hit a sledgehammer on a plate, sends a sound wave, hits the rock where it's most dense, comes back quicker when it hits rock. They record it, and then they make a determination how deep the rock is based on that sound. And then they do electronic too. They just don't do sound, they do electronic, send a charge into the ground, receives the same thing, send it back. So we'll see if that's all done. We'll get a report here, hopefully.
For me, why is it okay to do that, but not okay to drill?
Because we're not going below the surface.
Yeah.
It's
non-destructive testing or
The most we're going below the surface, that's probably a probe that big as maybe 2 of my fingers, and they put it in the ground to get the charge started. But otherwise, it's not a drill going.
So to me, the risk of
DNR that we're waiting for that permit.
That is
Army Corps.
It's an easement of the Army Corps.
Okay.
And we learned today that they're very close.
Okay.
Actually, that means both, that's progress.
And I saw that the drill team came off the river a couple of days last week. Is that just because of wind or just wind? Okay.
And I would say back when we did 1A and we had these set of plans that everybody reviewed. If you were to go back and look at those, you're going to see the foundations like they thought they would be. For the most part, it's just this one sheet and there's a table on it that tells you, okay, this is where rock is, this is how deep it is. So you're not going to see a lot of change coming. It's just confirmation of what they did at 15%.
But
now do we have to go in a bunch of detail and show every little rebar piece and things like that? That's where the detail comes in. Otherwise, kind of know a lot more.
Nothing's gonna make a 6-foot shaft or a 5-foot shaft or
I don't know about bent 7 and 8. It's a little concerning that we don't know a lot about the most critical bents right now that are right next to the span.
That'll come next week then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the ones we're waiting. Would they have a permit now for May 1st? Right. Thank you.
So Michael, did you get all the way through your director report?
Yep.
And we got all the way through Dan's government relations report. Partner updates. Is there anybody that wants to volunteer anything? Right, I'm gonna just keep on moving. Onto the consent agenda. We have invoice approvals. Let's start with that. Anybody have any?
The HMTB invoice as part of that was reviewed in the ENC meeting. And we're okay with it.
Recommending approval.
Recommending approval. I
Since
don't know about the funding and finance.
and since I formally sat on engineering commission, I just was checking all signatures were there and validated.
Yes.
Yes.
And when you say you're good with it, you mean all the work that you assumed was done and billed for is appropriate for the scope that we're approving?
We looked at the certifications and we're in agreement with all the signatures and so on it.
Thank you.
There are no concerns from the funding and finance group. Unless you have anything
I
else.
wasn't at that meeting, but the last one that you reviewed at.
So I would entertain a motion.
So that do you want to do all the consents at the same time? Or just the invoice?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess we could do them all at the same time, or we could do the three at one at a time.
Let's do all of them.
Okay. So
I have one question on the policy one.
I was going to say he was going to explain it.
Okay.
He is not here today.
Did the governance committee look at it and you guys are okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about policy 5, Michael?
It's just it defines a conflict of interest for the authority if there's any type of conflict, what to do. Last year we had done one specific to the port only, and the right-of-way transactions with the port just broadened it out to be more of a general policy for everything.
Legal review, no, that's
Yeah.
All right. And that's the one that we know is going to probably come up again next year.
But we don't.
May.
I guess I'm not sure what the latest is, but I thought that the governor was vetoing change in Oregon. But that there may be another change next year. I mean,
We'll review them annually.
Right. Okay. We're up to date with current.
So, and then the other one is the 1-year extensions for our lobbyist groups.
I personally think we need to do that one because we're not fully funded yet.
Yes, this is all same terms, all same prices, nothing's changed, basically, it's just been doing an extension.
The one question I had is when we originally did that, we set it up for the sequential renewals, and this is the last one.
Yes.
So what would
Next spring we'll have to.
We'll have a lot more information at that point.
If we need them past this year, we got significant challenges.
We may have to for government relations, but it's a sort of contract, right?
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about any of those that they don't feel?
But did we have a motion?
Not yet.
Not yet. See if anybody else, see if people fess up to having gone through the material. Not seeing any other questions.
Items from governance.
Actually, so I'm going back through. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'll put a motion that we approve the entire consent agenda made up of invoice approvals, policy 05, conflict of interest, Rev 1, and the extension of the lobbyist contract.
I'll second that.
I did have one additional comment. So Debbie did review the what we have left open on the Port Hood River loan that funds the lobbyist activities. And she said that we should be good with the funds that we have available for the next year, but that it's going to be pretty tight by the time that it's done, and that we should consider asking the port to increase that loan amount.
She didn't say.
I was-
See how much?
For a grant?
My recollection was that she recommended 500,000 increase. Debbie, are you on? Is that?
I am
remembering that
on,
right?
yeah, and part of what I wanted to point out, and I think I said this before, but I want to make sure you guys know that the primary charges that get charged to the loan from the port is the lobbying. There are other expenses that HNTB contractors have felt weren't really chargeable to any one grant. And so some of the work that Baker Tilly did, which was kind of reviewing the overall approach to grants and things like that, that's also been charged to the loan. And so going forward, if it was just lobbying, you have enough money to get through the next fiscal year, I believe. But that does depend on what else gets charged. Well, it depends on two things. It depends on what else gets charged. And then I'm also not sure, did we have dollar amounts in this contract going forward? Did they increase? I couldn't remember if they had increased them, but it is going to be tight. The amount of money that's still available on the loan and then moving forward to get these non-reimbursable items charged to that loan. So you are bumping up against that. And then as Commissioner Fox said, it kind of depends on, I mean, if you go into another fiscal year, then with these lobbying contracts, then there's probably other issues that are going to have to be dealt with as well. So that's kind of where you're at.
You bring up a very good point. I wasn't at the last commission meeting. Did you guys agree to spend money on, and I'm going to get this wrong, one of the organizations, government organizations, to pay for some of their time to do some of our work?
We did.
And how much did you approve?
63 or 62?
63,000.
Okay, so Debbie, did you know that? We've already spent 63 million of
That, and I'm sorry, because I'm not familiar with that. I think I did I miss the last meeting? Anyway, was that for, you mean that's going against the loan?
Yes, it's an NR cost.
It may end up being reimbursable. I think they're still evaluating that to see whether or not it is, but it could potentially go against it. So.
Yeah, I did not know about that. And so that will leave you short. If that does have to stay against the loan, then there won't be enough money to cover the just the lobbying even for next year.
And we are tracking this monthly, so but
yeah.
Okay, now we got a contract lobbying for a year, but we can shut it off if we needed to.
I think there's a termination clause on there, yes.
Okay, so that if I remember right, lobbying for a year is about 207,000.
Yeah,
270
something.
Okay, so if we really had to and we couldn't get an extension, we could cut them off by 3-4 months and we're back in the green again.
Yep.
As long as we kind of keep that in front of us, I'm fine.
So, and like I said, we're monitoring it month by month. So, but I think Debbie's right, is probably sometime in the next 3 months we should think about asking for an increase.
We can ask, but I wouldn't take it to the bank.
Would be better to ask now than to ask later. And I think you have other alternatives that you can use if you don't get a loan.
But we shouldn't automatically count that it's going to be a yes.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, and I want to agree with what Commissioner Fox just said. I have not talked to the port commissioners about this, so I don't know what direction they'll go. And then we have Catherine, who is one of the port commissioners. So.
Catherine?
Yes, sir. Just Debbie, can you tell us how much is left on that grant? Or I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but
Yeah,
I apologize, wrong word. The loan that the port is.
yeah, yes, because it is a loan. It's a zero interest loan that just gets repaid when the bridge gets built. I believe that there was going to be around, I figured that there was going to be around 300,000 available for next year. But I did not know about the 62 or 63,000 or whatever that you were just saying. So that would take it down to around 240, which would not quite cover the lobbying if that other one has, if that other expenditure has to stay against the loan.
But the 408 review with the Army Corps of Engineers is a time and material contract. So at any time, I mean, once it's getting, I mean, just for my own opinion, since we're voting on this, we could stop that and or the lobbying at any time. Is this a time and materials contract for the lobbyists as well?
Well, yeah, it's a monthly.
It's a monthly retainer.
Monthly retainer.
Yeah, it's a flat amount each month, but yeah.
You could stop at any month, but you own that month.
Right.
In other words, if we're about to run out of money, you need to warn us so we can stop spending.
Yeah, and we're like I said, we're tracking this. It's something that's
I think we ought to just make it a standard item on at least on a monthly basis in this meeting. Where are we on that account?
Yeah, and we can bring it through the funding and finance when we get to the point where we feel like we need to make that request for the court.
That's great, but as an authority, I'd like to see it too.
Cool.
Every month?
Is it
Once a
possible
month.
to amend the consent then for 6
You're going to
months
spend this pretty fast.
to a
You
year?
don't have that much left.
So, Captain.
Sorry, Catherine, I couldn't understand you.
Sorry, is it possible to amend the consent for 6 months as opposed to a year so that we can approve a contract where we know we have funding for it as opposed to potentially approving a contract where we're going to be in the negative? Just throwing an idea out there, not trying to.
I don't see the advantage to that, given that we have the ability to stop at any point. This is simply making an administrative function instead of a board decision.
I mean, this is a renewal of an existing contract
Yes,
that's been in
that's
place,
right.
so we would have to go back and change the original contract in order to make it into a 6 months.
Correct.
I think you make a good point then. We have the ability to stop it at any time, so. You comfortable with that?
This causes us to be disciplined enough to look at it. Make sure we're on top of it.
So we have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. We've had some good discussion. I don't think we've fundamentally changed anything, but we do understand the issue much better.
That's the idea.
All right. So I'm going to see if there is a group that is in favor.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, so that's consent agenda. So we're down to committee reports. And we can start with engineering.
Okay. Engineering report out. This was Keith's first meeting as a new member of the E&C committee. And we welcome him. He's going to fit in really, really well. He's got a great background. We went through a 6F letter that I think you're going to see a little later in the presentation where Stuart has been putting together. Remember a couple of meetings back, we had this issue about should we push back on the 6F requirement, spending $3.4 million to buy a piece of land 5 miles or so away from the new bridge and cheaping up the ends on the new bridge to pay for it. So Stuart put together a draft letter. It should be in the package.
It is.
The thought through the engineering committee is that we like the revised letter. And we would propose that this letter be sent off to national parks, but also seek an audience with the E&C committee to national parks so we can in person make our case have a little presentation put together about what we're trying to do here, why we're doing it the way we think we ought to do it. So that's that letter you're going to see here in a few minutes, but we talked about that at great length. We went through the permit updates. We've already talked about the in-water work starting May 1st. We went through the financial report. We looked at the Keywood schedule. We pretty much talked that out already, so I won't go through that again. We went through the scope log. We validated with Keywood. We are not holding them up authority-wise of any outstanding decisions that they've required of us. There is none. We're not holding them up. We already talked about the invoice. We talked quite a bit about bridge monitoring, exactly where we were on that. Mike gave a little bit of a kind of a status of it. There's only one piece that maybe should be added. On each of the piers, there's 2 prisms, and those prisms get targeted by those 2 projectors, if you will, back on the land over, what's the name of the land?
There's SDS and Mount
Adams Fruit. And when you have these 2 prisms so close together, the system is having trouble locking up on only one. So the fix there is, as they go out on the piers here next week, they're going to take one of the prisms and turn it sideways so it can't read it. We think that'll solve the problem of the projectors going across and picking up the right one. We talked about the test trial program quite a bit. We did go through very briefly, and I think it's in your package as well, the engineering reuse report of the old bridge. And I can almost get through this without smiling, because I can't believe anybody'd want that thing. But I'm not trying to project that on you. That's it. Oh, and do you want to talk about now this additional career day?
Put that under informational.
Okay, sounds good. End of report. Keith or Eric, do you have anything to add?
Looking through my notes, I don't see anything.
Did you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
It's an engineering reuse report. Is that in the packet? I don't recall seeing that.
No, we always do it verbally.
Okay.
The document, is that document? We can share it.
It's available and I think it's provided in the packet or something.
Okay.
What's the link in the packet for that?
Then
And in fairness, that is a very summary report that is actually written down. You're not going to get much color out of it.
Which the reuse report? Which report?
The engineering notes.
He's talking about the actual report, right?
Oh,
You want the actual
report? Yes,
yeah.
That's what I'm asking about.
that I can provide you the link. That was only on the instruction. I'll
Got it.
provide that to the board.
Great. Thanks. That's what I'm asking for. Yeah.
Like the only other thing I had in my notes was whether you want to bring it up or not, is the relationship with the Bridge of the Gods and whether or not we're kind of out of our existing charter. If you remember that discussion?
yeah. So there was an issue that was brought up. The port right now provides a service to Bridge of the Gods as their back office for their tolling system. At some point in time, when we get our tolling system, if we adopt the same one, or one very similar to what the port is using now, what kind of relationship do we want, or do we really need to support back to Bridge of the Gods?
So you manage their tolls today.
In our existing charter doesn't really address that, right?
And the existing charter really doesn't allow us to do that.
Right, that would be thrilling to actually care about this. When we're at a point where we can care about this, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, okay.
So
Early, this becomes a real
a little
problem.
more on that is Genevieve talked to me while we were in DC
Yep.
because it is a concern of Cascade Locks and how we do what we end up doing.
Right.
The tolling team is going to go down and meet with them so that we can understand how they use what the impacts would be and give them some advice on their options.
Right.
They can continue to do whatever they want. Whether we go good to go or any type of pass, they can maintain their existing system as they want. So it lessened their concern. So that was the main thing was they
Or
had
if
a
they wanted to
concern about-
continue with the Port of Hood River, even though the port's not doing our bridge, there's nothing to say that they couldn't.
They were concerned about what their options are, and they have options that they didn't realize. So there's a lot less concern there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. 2 questions. Can we get an update on the geotech borings, please?
Yeah, they've completed everything except for 7 and 8, I think, or pretty close to completed everything except for 7 and 8. They're allowed to start 7 and 8 as of May 1st, unless that changed this week. No change yet. Okay.
No change.
So they can start 7 and 8 May 1st, and then the on land boring 11 was the conversation we had earlier about the non-invasive Ben 11 stuff, and then the boring that'll come later.
So are we paying for demobilization and mobilization of this? Are we paying for them to be on site and not work?
No, the break between the work they're doing now and then the work they can do when they are on state land and James is pretty short. James, you want to clarify that?
Hi, Catherine. We are currently working on Pier 6. There's a couple of boreholes left to do at Pier 6. So we get all 4 of them rather than demo. They have productive work that they can do.
So are we behind schedule, or my understanding is even with this delay, we're still right on critical path. Is that correct, James?
Yeah, we got a late start on all this boring work, but as far as it's progressing as we expected it to, it might actually be a little bit faster than what we thought.
Great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. And second question, for the tolling, there's a tolling committee that I get to sit on, and I get to talk to Debbie about all these things as well as our tolling firm. I think another commissioner, Mr. Fleming, is on there as well. So we love the feedback, but there are people that are discussing what our oversight should be and what our role should play for the Cascade Lock. So Commissioner Babbitts, you don't need to worry. There are people discussing this at length about, distances and all the things when it comes to tolling. So just want to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So you wanted to add something to governance.
Briefly, so we had a request from the comms committee asking us what they should use as the official title for alternates in presumably on the website and various other places. And so we talked about it briefly, and we felt like certainly where there is a list of who the commissioners are, it needs to say what seat each person fits in. But beyond that, since all of the commissioners, both alternates and others, have been appointed by their respective counties and have the ability to vote under our charter when there are conditions under which any of them can vote. Therefore, they're all commissioners, and addressing them as commissioners in the website is perfectly appropriate. So that was our answer. I don't know if we have to vote on that as a group, but we didn't think there was a real question.
Great.
We didn't think it was we thought it was pretty straightforward.
Non-issue.
Well, I mean, it's not an issue. There's a real question, but we did not have any problem. We thought the answer was simple.
Okay. So that gets us to our committee reports. We don't have any unfinished business. That gets us into new business. Let's go with the stated items here, and then we'll add about career day.
So change order number 8 is a time-only extension for the completion of the bridge monitoring. So that extends that contract through June 30th. So we've met with Kiewit. They thought that was plenty of time for them to finish the work that they needed to do. So that's the first action item. It's just simply a time extension to June 30th for their phase 1A, which is specific to just bridge monitoring.
And E&C committee did look at that. And I can't remember, but I believe we all agreed to it.
We agreed that we should recommend that we approve that. Or, so we'll go ahead and take a motion.
I just have a question there, sorry. We've approved multiple time extensions and multiple extensions of the bridge monitoring system, and I just want to kind of bring that up, having sat on the engineering construction committee. Can staff clearly explain what is actually happening in 2 sentences or left? Is it the azimuths that are not lining up? Is it the equipment that's not right? Because having sat through the multiple presentations about how this was standard equipment and the installation was super easy and we shouldn't worry about it, it's almost 1 year later and we're still not getting any result as far as I'm aware on a system. And so I just want to make sure before we keep extending this, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on if there's a guarantee that this is the last time. Otherwise, why not just make it till October of 27, since that's when we're going to start construction? James, does that make sense?
It does. And as much as I want to be able to give you a guarantee, I cannot give you an absolute guarantee. But what I can tell you is that just like Commissioner Fox had said, the 2 prisms that we have out there and the challenges that we're finding with the robot, we do need to move all of those. That's one thing that we need to do. We have 3 out of the 20 vibration sensors that are not working. And so we need to go do some troubleshooting on those. And then we have 1 tilt sensor out there that seems to be turning on and off at random times. So that's what we need to go out and do to make that to make everything work.
So I have a theory on this. When I left the meeting last week, as I was driving across, there was a osprey that was doing osprey things for sort of balances, and it had a whole bunch of sticks in its talons, and it was clearly trying to build a nest in one of the towers. So, so my theory is that we have an osprey who built a nest on top of one of our.
You do. It's been there for a long time. It attacked the people when they were fixing the bridge. Yeah, it's pretty protective of.
You should talk to Kevin about that. He's in charge of it.
It actually, I think it's a good thing because it actually drives off some of the other predatory birds.
Yeah, the birds.
So, yeah, we've talked a lot
with
about
that comment. I would make a motion to do the time extension. We're too deep into this.
Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So the next action item is the LWCF, and can you please help me with the acronym?
London Water Conservation Fund.
Yes, thank you.
You do.
Yeah, 6F conversion. So this is the letter that Mike Fox talked about a little bit. It is in the packet. This is the second go around to kind of say, hey, does this really make sense?
Yeah, and we've had some previous conversations with OPRD and MPS. This is not the first time that we have asked this of them, but this is somewhat of a courtesy ask from the authority directly. And then a request that if we can't get a concurrence, that we elevate the conversation.
And this request has a lot more finite detail than the previous request. The previous request was kind of
right. So
general.
Reading the letter, what I'm scratching my head about it. So one of the big things that the time limit, the 18-month rule. I asked that. I'm not sure it was a committee meeting or our last meeting, whether that's statutory, is that in the CFR, or is that interpretation that's been made by the agency over a period of time? Because it seems like that would be an area to push on if it's not statutory. So the fact that we're borrowing it for longer than 18 months, but not for And this has been used for its intended purpose for 40 years now, something like that, and an interruption of a couple of years.
Actually, I'm not sure it actually was used for its intended purpose, but wasn't it
the
recreation?
parking lot. No, this is considered temporary use of the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Because the piece that we're permanently converting, that makes sense that has to be a conversion. The question is just the nature of the conversion. Like the piece that we're borrowing, the parking lot to the north of the ramp, that's been used as a parking lot for its intended purpose for all this time.
There's another piece to this, the area where the buildings are now.
Yeah.
If we go ahead and do this $3.4 million buyout, that land is no longer 6F. It is now commercial.
Right. Well, I'm not sure what the zone is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's commercial. So theoretically, you could put a restaurant or a small hotel out there, which certainly doesn't go for recreational use that NPS is really trying to drive for.
I'm not sure I follow your argument.
It becomes, once we buy it out, it becomes unencumbered by the 6F designation.
But we're putting a bridge there.
Only on a
No,
portion.
only on a portion of it. Only on a portion of it. So by us doing what we're proposing to do, we are, one, protecting and actually re-implementing 6F on all that property that the port has facilities on now. It becomes truly recreational.
But not under 6F though.
Yeah, because we're not going to remove it from 6F.
We're not returning it at that point. We've paid the mitigation. It's now ours, right?
Part of what we're proposing is to return it to recreational as an offset to the cost.
Yes, so that's exactly what I'm asking about. Have we looked into the 18-month rule? Where does that come from?
I will have to go get the exact statutory, whether it's, they have been clear that of their interpretation of it. I will need to go back and find exactly what they're using as their basis for that.
One other issue I have with the letter is I was under the impression that the 3.4 million is how much we would have to pay.
Correct.
The letter assumes that we also have to pay plus additional cost to design, permit, and develop amenities. I did not know there was any requirement of developing amenities.
Depends on what you buy, right? Depending on.
It has to be a property that can be used for recreation, and if it's not in that shape when you purchase it, then you're responsible for getting it there.
The 3.4 is kind of minimum.
Wouldn't that be included in the 3.4?
No.
3.4 was land value.
Correct. So 3.4 is kind of minimum.
So you have,
it could go higher than that.
Value plus the improvements.
Plus you have to make sure it's recreational use. Yes.
Anybody who can walk on it and makes it public makes it recreational, right?
And that's true, and that does happen. You can purchase wetland, set it aside, and say that has recreational value in this particular.
It depends on what you buy, but you can't. One of the rules though is you can't go buy recreation property that is already under recreational use that's not 6F and say, well, we're going to go put 6F on this. You can't do that either.
Sure. You can't go buy a park that's already a park.
Right.
Correct. So most likely there will be some level of additional money that we will have to put into the property we buy. Highly likely that will happen.
So as an example, if you buy a piece of property next to the river, 5 miles down the river, but the access road doesn't get you all the way to it, you got to put in an access road to get to it.
Yeah, or upgrade it, or signing and probably some parking, I would guess. Yeah. So
have we looked at if the like the recreational motor club use of the bridge qualifies for anything in this?
So we made an argument that just, on top of things like that, just the simple fact that there's a bike ped facility on it that takes up half the structure should qualify.
It's not half the structure.
Almost. A little less.
Just be careful about that.
A little less than half the structure. That we should be able to count that. Now, what I would say is we all need to understand what we're asking for if we want to make the bridge 6F. They've said they won't do it. They probably won't. But if you did, you could be putting a 6F encumbrance on the bridge. That means that anything in the future you do, you've got to go through this process again.
But what we're trying to say is not I wouldn't agree with that, but all the improvements we're making at both ends is going to be more than enough for that $3.4 million.
Well, you have to get it evaluated, but yes,
Yeah.
it probably will be. But we have to go through an appraisal process, so it's a dollar for dollar.
But
It's not
also
acre for acre.
there's a land component and then there's an improvement.
Yes,
So the
there's two
3.4
pieces.
million is
Just the land.
we're taking land that already has recreation on it and we're taking it out of use. So 3.4 is the land.
Correct.
And then, as you said, there's the possibility that the new land that we acquire with that then has to have improvements to make it recreation.
That's correct.
The only thing I would say that's different than that, if you take the land as it is today,
Yep.
not all of it is in conformance with 6F.
Yep.
So what we're doing is making all of it into 6F. We're taking out the old bridge,
Yep.
making it park-like setting. We're putting the new bridge in, but on both ends, we're making it a park-like setting.
It's a really good deal for the Water Conservation Fund. I got that. We still have to get their approval.
So we'll get you the actual if it's statute or if it is what statute exactly it is. They've been very clear with us over the 18 months, their
Right.
opinion of it, but we'll.
So if we don't have the statute and we're asking for reconsideration on the bridge being a recreational purpose, we haven't had the conversation about whether we would want to put 6F over the bridge.
Correct. This is just simply to ask them if we can have the conversation and whether the bridge would be eligible. They have told us more than once, no. But we did not want to go over the local, regional local people and go straight over them without at least officially asking one more time formally from the authority and formally letting them know that if your answer is still no, we would like to elevate this up to the next level of discussion.
So if I'm reading it correctly, we are requesting that they reverse their opinion or their decision.
Yes.
Was it a decision or was it an opinion?
It was I guess how do you differ a decision versus comment?
Well, it's.
They have
Well, it's
told
a
us they
finding.
will not
I'm
count
sorry.
it as.
And so we're asking them to reverse their finding, and that because that it constitutes a conversion within the basin, and instead confirm that the bridge improvements within the boundary are compatible public facility under the manual Channel 8 because they clearly benefit outdoor recreation. And then we're asking to schedule a meeting. But we are asking to confirm in writing that the shared use path pullouts and related park tie-ins meet the manual compatibility standard and do not require conversion.
Right. That gives you an option to use that if you choose as your mitigation. But you guys, I think we need to still have some more conversation about what that means.
So I would want to know what that means. If we're layering 6F on the unit itself, that might be a worse decision than the original decision to pay $4 million for $10,000.
Yes, you are correct. And
But
that's
there wouldn't be any land costs.
right. And there wouldn't be any discussion until they tell us it's ineligible. So we want to get the authorization that yes, they agree.
It's all about land. You have to purchase land. You can't take land you own and put a park on it. You have to acquire land.
If that land is not being used as recreational, you could take land that you're using and make it into recreational. If you had a vacant lot that nobody was accessing or you weren't doing anything with, you could convert that existing land into a recreational park.
How does that apply?
But that's existing land. I think we bird dogged this and found that the bridge can't count because it's
The
not
bridge
land.
can't count.
It cannot.
Cannot count is what they have told us.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
And
I
that
think that's a non-starter.
Right.
It's really the park settings on both ends
Yeah.
that are our most viable argument for this.
Yeah.
And Mike, this is Mark Reno. I just want you to loop me into this conversation before you go a lot further down that road to ensure that we're comfortable with it.
Yes, we will.
Thank.
Catherine? 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 Catherine
I'd like to formally on the record share, based on the new conflict of interest documents, that I am a port commissioner, and I believe that the port, even though it's a part in this letter, would agree with the 6F request. However, I have not confirmed, so I believe since I am a voting member in this meeting, I need to recuse myself just based on the conflict documents that I'm reading. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
So who's, I think that makes Jake, is that,
Yeah.
He's still
Jake
on.
Edwards, are you still there?
I just texted him to let him know that I'm recusing. He is no longer able to be here, so we are down an Oregon commissioner.
Okay.
But we still have.
We still have,
Yeah, we still have enough.
So I think we've had a lot of discussion on the letter. I think we understand, at least for the moment, what it's trying to do. It seems to be a little different every time we talk about it. There's another subtlety, but we're looking for a motion.
Maybe
Maybe
a slight modification to this is maybe what we ought to do is we request to reconsider this determination letter. We authorize it to be sent subject to Mark lawyer review of it. And if he's okay with it as written, go ahead and send it.
I thought he was reacting to the discussion about the bump outs
on the bridge.
I thought that was something that we weren't, that's not in this letter, is it?
No.
So why are we holding this letter on that?
I read Mark's comment was that he wants to get plugged into this whole subject.
I thought he was just worried about us covering the bridge the same way.
I thought he meant.
If it's Commissioner Fox, if it's specific only to the bridge and not to land that is not, part of the bridge, then I don't need to review. It's my concern that this is a limited purpose agency, and I would want to ensure that everything that you're entering into and agreeing to accept funds for is within your authority. That's my concern. If it's bridge related, I have no concerns.
Okay, I just came up with another one then. Argued with the port of Hood River because we're kind of talking about their land.
So
No, my opinion right now, it doesn't need to be reviewed by anybody. We're simply asking for a meeting and a decision to be made by the OPRD and NPS so that you guys can then come back and make a decision of how you want to move forward. Right now, you're not really taking any action other than sending this letter requesting OPRD and NPS to reconsider position and clarify position, and then you will have more conversations.
Personally, I think that it would be better to have the conversation with OPRD about what we want and how we could possibly get there before sending a letter requesting that
4 times.
So, but it sounds like it's changing a little bit because we've been told no about the bridge being used. And now we're talking about the lands, according to the picture, the swales and everything else.
We've been told the temporary cannot be used either.
But that's going to be permanent in the future. And so there's going to be a time.
You cannot use it, that you have to mitigate for it.
Right. Right. And so then the question to me really is, well, what about the Washington side? We've been told.
You've been told no.
We've been told on the Washington side.
Yes.
And so to me is if you have one more shot at this with them, where is our highest likelihood of success? And where do we want to push? I don't think they're going to budge about the bridge ever being used for recreational purposes, considering we're getting federal dollars as a transportation corridor. They were really clear about that one.
Yep.
I think, though, if you make the Washington side the corridor where the bridge is as transportation, but then you can swap out land from the Oregon side to the Washington side, maybe don't put it in as property, like it would be being bought by the city or somebody else, that rest of that property.
We've had that conversation with them more than once, and they have said we will not allow you to mitigate outside of the state boundary.
Which is where I think, from my perspective, we ask that one more time, and then we make that political, saying that mitigation in time, in place, that's actually going to be attached to the project has the highest benefit.
That was what the intent of this letter was the last ask for them to reconsider so that you can elevate it up. Because we're pretty sure we know what they're gonna say. Like I said, we've asked this same thing 3 to 4 times. And this is kind of the formal last ask and notification that if you're not going to allow us to do this, then we would like to elevate this conversation.
Right, so the jurisdiction question is one where in the CFR, I have it in front of me, I can't find the exact words, but my recollection last time I read it was something to the nature of that it has to be within the same jurisdiction unless there is an actual unless you can demonstrate that another jurisdiction will in a greater way meet the initial intent of the
So my understanding of what they've interpreted jurisdiction to mean, to be in their jurisdiction, meaning if it's Oregon OPRD, then it has to be within Oregon OPRD's jurisdiction. That going outside of that is outside of the jurisdiction. That's the grayness that we would like to elevate the conversation up on, is that it's the National Park Service. Why is it limited to a regional improvement?
Right, and if you have the state of Oregon saying we're okay with it being directly neighboring our state, that would seem to change the reason for that existing.
Yeah,
right?
you at least hope that they would consider that or take that into consideration.
So I'm still, when I'm looking at the requested decision, if you're agreeing with what I'm saying here, where it says that we are asking for it to be the 6F boundary or compatible public facility under manual chapter 8, because they clearly benefit outdoor recreation and do not change the park's primary recreational purpose. So to me, if I was them reading that, I would be thinking that what we're saying is we shouldn't have to do any mitigation because we're a compatible public facility.
Correct.
And is that what we are asking, is that we shouldn't have to do any mitigation?
I think that what we're asking them to do is take that under consideration, that we are putting enough dollar improvements within this project to offset the $3.4 million. There would have to be a process of going and getting a yellow book appraisal that would prove that out. But we feel that we should at least be able to have that conversation, and for them to acknowledge that they're willing to have that conversation of, yes, if you can do a yellow book of improvements within the project that offset the 3.4 million, that they would call that good.
And
we
then
would send it
both sides. We want Washington.
We would like to have that ideally.
I think if you look at the current plan, the landscaping on both sides and the improvements that we're planning on making, that's in excess of $3.4 million.
It's gonna come down to a yellow book land value, right? So it's gonna have to be a yellow book appraisal looking at best use, what's the right term? Best use and highest and best use of the property we're saying they're getting back versus the property that we're mitigating for. And that yellow book appraisal will have to come out at the same dollars. If it doesn't, then yes, potentially if it came out at 2 million, you'd still have to go do 1.4 million of mitigation somewhere else. We're just asking them to sit down and have the conversation about that scenario. And then we will do the evaluations. Right now, they said, no, we're not, you got to go do it somewhere else. And where we are is we would have to go spend 3.4 million somewhere outside the project. We would like to continue the conversation about doing it within the bounds of the project.
So part of that discussion needs to be that if we do the 3.4, you lose that acreage of recreational use around the Oregon end of the bridge.
We would have to find the 3.4 million.
But yeah, you're going to buy it someplace else, but that land is no longer tied to 4F.
So we would not have to make it you would not have to put the land.
The local people would lose that designation of that particular chunk of land.
If the authority chose not to do the landscaping around the end of the bridge because they needed to offset that cost and go buy 3.4 million of land, then you could be losing, because that 3.4 buying it off site of the project doesn't get offset. So it would most likely have to be offset with some other, give up something else within the project.
So again, one last time. So what we're planning on doing is spending a bunch of money to landscape both ends of the bridge, we're planning on getting rid of those non-conforming facilities that are on recreational land now. Once we're finished with staging, we'll recontour all of that, plant it, irrigate it, whatever. So it's going to be usable by the general public as truly recreational land, where today they can't.
Correct.
They can only get access on the trail.
So is the fundamental big issue is there's a 6F encumbrance. There's a dollar amount associated with it, and the rules on how that is spent says we got to go somewhere else to do it, and you can't get credit for what we believe needs to go along with the bridge.
That's what we've been told so far.
It's their interpretation.
Yeah. So what we're really asking, I think, is look, this is what we're doing. It doesn't make sense in our mind to go spend a bunch of money somewhere else when it really belongs here with the bridge. So we need to find a different way to calculate how that mitigation, we're not, there's the money's going to get spent. Does it get spent once or twice is kind of the question, right?
So I've got one more question. Number 8 on this picture has a dashed line. This is the Oregon Off-Bridge Landscape Enhancements. Next page. Keep going one more. Right there, number 8. And then number 8, it says future port expansion. So that is now going to be considered non-6F property. And so are we saying that the port is going to be building upon that?
They could, if we go down the path of mitigating the 6F offsite. The encumbrance would no longer exist there, and the port could do whatever they wanted with that property.
That's if it's in the port's name and it's the port's property.
The owner of whoever owns that after the bridge is done could do whatever they wanted.
And that's the area that meets setbacks.
Yeah, unless we buy it, there's not much we can do with that land. If we wanted to put a restaurant on it, we can't.
Well, that's outside the authorities.
That's exactly right.
And which I think is what Mark was trying to get at, that you're limited. Yeah, you're limited to what you can do.
So is the purpose of putting that in there because that is the only area that is developable that meets the setbacks that you could then say, we would like this to become 6F property at the end of it and just for a consideration? Is that your purpose behind that?
It's just to represent that this would be not encumbered if we go down this path. So currently this is what if we mitigate 3.4 off-site, then that number 8 property would be available for other things outside.
Technically all be unencumbered?
Everything that you mitigate for would be unencumbered.
Yeah, so we have this red line, but technically
that wasn't a surveyed line. That was just generally to show that flat area would be available.
Potentially be available.
Yes. It wasn't intended to be
for a higher and best use.
Yeah, it wasn't intended to be an exact footprint or something like that. We didn't measure offsets or anything like that.
So the other part of this is because of these pictures up above with the lighting, and these are really great visualizations. It looks to me as if we are asking for the bike ped facility to be considered part of the recreational, or we've been told no before. And that's why I'm trying to figure out if we want to line this in a little bit more.
I think that is a mistake because bike ped is transportation.
Yes.
So
but the overlook
that's the grants you're getting is
the thought behind it was that the overlook and the connection that doesn't exist today. Right. So the bridge is providing a connection between two ends that have recreational purpose. So that fact that it's connecting those things that it doesn't connect in the past would be another argument that would.
But that's for the improvements to be considered, but that's not land. That's not the land acquisition. That's not mitigation for the land conversion.
Well, you're mitigating the recreational use. You're not mitigating the land.
So you're talking about the top of the land.
Yes.
Got it.
Right, because you're mitigating the loss of recreation.
I thought someone was still trying to make the argument that you could replace
Okay.
land acquisition.
Look at all that land.
We gotta do one conversation or.
I thought you were trying to replace the land acquisition with the improvement, and it's not.
No,
That's
it's the
fine.
recreational use.
Okay, so, yeah, so this is just really frustrating. I'm reading the CFR here, and if their interpretation about the location of the mitigation, I can see how they came to the conclusion that they came to, but it's by taking a paragraph and reading all the sentences separately and not reading the entire paragraph.
We don't
Because the
disagree with you.
paragraph
That's why we've asked for it.
starts by saying replacement property need not necessarily be directly adjacent to or close by the converted site. You start by saying the policy provides administrative flexibility to determine locations, recognize the property should meet existing public outdoor recreation needs, and generally involve the selection of a site to serve the same community. So if you read those words and then you get down to the fact that it's a separate state, and it says that should a local project sponsor be unable to replace a converted property, the state would be responsible as primary recipient of federal assistance for assuring compliance with the regulations and substitution of replacement property. And that's where having one state say, yeah, we're okay with the state of Washington doing that. Again, if you look at the common sense interpretation of what this paragraph says, the goal is to find mitigation that's close by and serves the same community.
Agreed. We'd love to have you come make that argument with us.
I think this supports what you're saying. The old bridge was over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to remediate all of this over on this side. I don't believe any of this was 6F. 6F is over on this side. Okay.
That won't be available for more than a year.
Well, time out. So, and part of the 6F is in violation right now.
Yeah.
So by the entire mitigation we're doing, we're improving this entire peninsula. We're putting.
I understand that there is specific language. There is in the CFR. There is specific language that says that the mitigation has to happen within an agreed upon time. It says usually 1 year. So
keyword is usually.
Well, I understand, but then you're pushing. In that case, you are pushing against the language. Everything else we're saying are things that seem to be within the language. We're not asking to push. We're saying this is what the language says. You just are reading it in a weird way.
So is this activity that we're doing here, like, is the intention that we would send this letter and then, they would likely come back and say, we're not going to consider it, and we would just send the same presentation on to the federal
The next level up.
the next level up, or are we going to work?
Is it next level up, or is it that we work at a political? That we
need to figure out what the next step is.
Right.
However, whatever that next level of elevate means, if it's going.
I thought that what we were doing was you guys as staff get your last chance at this here, and then we involve some members of the commission with their political ties to attempt to get a broader, to get an interpretation of.
And that may be where we end up going. This is just, like I said, this was more of a courtesy to the local people that we've been working with to say, here's one last ask. We're kind of letting you know that we're going to elevate this conversation if your answer is still the same as it's been.
Right, but we're elevating.
How we elevate it to
changing
who we
the
need
focus
to
of the
talk.
conversation on both sides.
Yes, we need to talk about that.
Can we say that
Elevate, I think is the right word. We're not going to their management in DC. We're going to political level to ask for help so that something gets pushed back down through the tree at some future date.
Yeah, I didn't know what the right word to use for that was. So.
Yeah.
I don't see that anywhere in the letter.
That what?
That we're politely stating that this is where we're going after this.
I thought there was a statement in there that said that we were going to go or something to that effect in the follow up.
If I could ask a question, is the primary pushback so far been OPRD or federal? Both. Okay.
Yeah. Mostly from OPRD.
Okay. And is it possible that they see this as they don't want to be stuck with a bill to mitigate anything we didn't do?
No, I think it's the opposite. They don't want to lose they want the mitigation money. They want us to give them $3-4 million.
Well, they don't want the money. They want the land.
They want more. They want more resources. They get a bigger resources.
They want to grow their footprint. That's right.
Okay.
And that's precisely why at a political level, if you get both states involved, then there's a discussion at the governor's level of this is meeting the recreational needs of the community, and therefore OPRD's parochial interpretation may not be as important.
I'm gonna ask one more question, even though I think we've already kind of beaten this one to death. Is there any advantage to asking again if we've already asked 3 times? Like, are we just making them giving them more ammunition to kind of go to their superiors and say, you know, this is a problem. Here's kind of what you're going to see and why you should say no before we even go kind of up a level.
It was, like I said, it was more kind of a courteous, to me, it was more of a courteous thing of, instead of just having a bunch of politicians or whatever we end up doing, call these people and say, you know, it was kind of this, hey, we want to sit down and have another conversation with you.
This is
Formally do it from the authority to them. And that kind of elevates it a little bit on our side.
And we think that there's some chance that they will entertain that conversation?
No. I think they will entertain us. I don't know. I don't think they're going
They'll courteously thank us for having.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to go some other route, but
that's totally right.
This was the
What I see is the issue here is they've already said no 4 times. We're asking them one more time to talk.
Yes.
In reality, what we should be taking them is, here is the solution to the problem, and this is exactly what we plan to do with the money of this valuation, and here's how we're going to spend it. And this is what we want to do with it. Now you tell us no, and we'll then have our political people tell you yes, you will.
Do you want to go through and mark it up with what you think? Because we didn't send it around for everybody's review. So if we want to send this out for everybody's comments, we can send it out and have everybody edit it.
I think we also need to get it to Mark, and I want legal to review it. So my request would be is we pull it from the agenda for this meeting.
I agree with that point, by the way, that just put it out on the table in the letter, exactly what it is.
Here's our plan.
But just for one key element though, because I don't agree with the size of the mitigation. I want to challenge again that 18-month piece. If you challenge the 18 months, then you're not saying, here's what we're going to do with 3.4 million. Instead, we're making the argument that under this model, we wind up increasing the cost of the bridge, which means the federal government has to give us more loan to pay for the bridge. And we're doing so because of an interpretation that is not appropriate in this case, given how long the use has been in place and given the fact that it will be returned to that use shortly after it's out of that use.
So we came up with 3.4 million. They did.
We used their process to do it.
But we've used their process for it.
They reviewed it and they've reviewed the appraisal. So they are in concurrence with the number.
But roughly half is temporary use. Does the CFR distinguish between the temporary and?
I don't see anything in the CFR about the temporary nature of it. So that's why I'm asking if someone can. Obviously, I'm not an expert reading this stuff, but I can't find that. I can't find all the details about the nature of the mitigation, et cetera. All the other things that they're saying, I can find in some way in here. That I can't find.
And part of the reason I'm sending this to Jake was that the staff has had the conversation with them. The authority as an agency has not formally made the argument to them. This formally would make the argument to them to say, hey, the agency was formally asking you this.
Right.
So that was the other reason in the play was the
I still feel pulling it makes more sense. I do like the idea of having agency representation to hash it out in the meeting. Yeah. I want to go in with, here's how much money we think it's worth. Here's what we're going to do with the money. We want your buy-off and concurrence. And if not, we're going to go talk to the governors.
So, okay. How do you want to ask them to come do that? Because I felt that's what this letter was doing, was asking them to come to the table to have that conversation.
Well, I think, first of all, we need to come up with what we want to do first. We need our solution before we have that.
Okay.
Internally.
So if we have a solution, and I think we have a built solution that we want to build, and it's kind of quantifying what that's gonna cost and then how you offset that with the mitigation price.
My personal preference is to not have the bridge itself have anything to do with it. None of the bump outs, none of it. We paid 14,000 and now it's gonna cost us 3 million. I don't want the bridge attached to this in any way.
Way more of that in the future if you try to use the bridge.
Exactly.
Anything you do.
50% of what we're talking about, we shouldn't be considering because we're going to return that to the use in a reasonable amount of time. And then the other 50%, we should be able to mitigate adjacent with acquisition and improvement of lands for the benefit of the same community that is using it today. Or those that use it under the roof.
Yeah, I think that is,
which never actually has been used.
and I think that is your all's argument right now. So I think we know kind of what the argument is.
Right.
It's, we need to get them to the table so you can have that discussion.
So if you took your design for the south end and you price that up and see what it is, if it's 3.4.
It's not, but that's not what you're pricing. You're pricing the land value. So we would have to go get the non-6F area priced by our appraiser to show that that area outside the 6F is equivalent to the 3.4.
So this is one that's currently.
So let me just ask you.
It would be, yeah, it would be right away. It would be the existing bridge and everything to the east.
If we just made it a flat dirt lot on both sides of the bridge.
Yeah, that's what you would evaluate.
Versus making it a real park-like setting for our community. We get no credit for making it park-like setting.
Correct. You have to value the highest and best use of that land. So they would have to look at it and they would have to appraise it post-construction of the new bridge. They would have to look at the property to the east of the new bridge and say, what's the highest and best use of that property? Which doesn't have great access to it. What's the value of that? That would be the value that would be offsetting to the 3.4. Then you could make the argument of what was the temporary value versus the permanent value and say, well, can we have a credit for the temporary that we're paying for? And then you would have to appraise the land use value of the Washington side to get a value there. And if all that added up to 3.4, then you could go back and say that land highest and best use of land value is what you're comparing. It's not comparing like park to park. It's land, the high and best use of that land.
So in all likelihood, you go through all of this and you still end up.
You could still be short.
Needing to buy a parcel somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but smaller amount, considerably smaller amount.
Yeah. Potentially, yes.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, we also would end up with potentially that piece of developable land that obviously we're not going to develop, but we could sell, right?
It depends on what you negotiate with the court.
So I think how you would negotiate that is you would negotiate that value away for reduced price for the highest and best use because it will be transitioned to at the end of the project, it will become park-like again, and it will go back into 6F for that little square or whatever. And you could negotiate that out.
You could value that part and say it was going to be, that was what you were purchasing, right? You're going to give them back the credit you're taking.
Mm-hmm. And to reduce that value down.
That would be an argument to make right now. They've told us they're not going to allow that.
Sure. But there's a few pieces. What I think we should do is I don't think this letter is written with the supporting documentation gets us what we're actually looking for. I think there's too much in there that's not straight shot enough. If we go back, staff has heard exactly the conversation. You guys can work on rewording that letter so that we can still get them to the table for the conversation. What we're talking about is less about the bridge and more about, the rest of those pieces.
Okay. Simplify and focus
To get them to the table, and then we can have the hard conversation. And when we tell them no, then we start having the conversation.
Okay.
So we'll get a chance to comment on that letter.
We will pull this out, send it out for comment, and
make revisions, send it out for comment,
and
send it back out.
Thanks.
All of those, this just went through one day, right?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
So that puts us we're gonna hold on that one. Our next new business is the service contract for Baker Tilly.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would make a motion that we approve the professional services contract with Baker Tilly for state and local tax advisory services.
This is reimbursable, right, from our grants. We're not funding this out of in our.
There needs to be a second before discussion, sir.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Raise your hand.
You ready now?
Yes.
I just want to make sure this is reimbursable. Seems like it should be reimbursable. So it's not coming out of that 1 million.
I think so. Debbie, are you still on?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. And I actually don't have an answer for that. This was a Tahee and Andrew.
I'll check on
worked
that for sure.
But
I think it doesn't
yeah.
matter if you gotta do it. I'll check on it.
I would suggest if your analysis shows that it's grant reimbursable, then I would recommend we vote to adopt.
If it's not grant reimbursable, what do you want to do?
We got to talk about it.
Well, we still have to do it. Perhaps it has to be done though. This is what.
How can we award a contract when we know we don't have the money? We need to go get the money, don't we?
We still have money in.
You can use a reserve tolling account to pay for it.
Then we ought to be talking about that and not letting staff just figure out where I'm gonna.
I can't say it with certain that it's reimbursable, but it's the other Baker Tilly work has been reimbursable, and there has been no indication that this work would not be reimbursable. He would be the one who would really.
Ben, I don't think that the other Baker Tilly work was presented for reimbursement. I think it has been charged against the loan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But I had been meaning to have a conversation with Tahee about that, about how they made that decision. Because he and Andrew are the ones that pretty much come up with this. And most of what generally when they submit things for reimbursement, it's all pretty clear. But I'm not quite sure why that they have chosen not to ask for reimbursement on these Baker Tilly invoices. So I'm not sure about that. And it's unfortunate Tahee's not here today because there's been several things that have come up here that I would like to ask him about.
I think
Debbie, this is Mark Greeno. This is Mark Greeno, counsel. I would echo that I wish that Tahee were here to talk about the reimbursement aspect of it. But this is a very important piece of work that informs some critical aspects of how the agency approaches both the Oregon and Washington taxing authorities. And my counsel has been to the finance committee and to others that this is not something that we should be going alone on. That if we get this wrong, the potential for penalties is it's just better to have a defense that we hired competent advisors to guide us through this what can be quite a murky situation. This isn't something that we can figure out on our own. It really truly does need we really truly do need advice on this, and regardless of how Baker Tilly advises us on this, we'll have to pay what we have to pay, but we don't want to be in a position if we are determined to have underpaid where we haven't made our best case with advisors at our side.
My recommendation is just to delay this 2 weeks so we have time for staff to come back and say, yes, it's reimbursable, or no, it's not. And if it's not reimbursable, where are we on that $1 million loan? And have we just triggered where we got to go up it?
Well, so here's what I would modify that. I would say that you're going to run into more than just this over the next year and a half that is going to be non-reimbursable expenses. I would say go ahead and move forward with this and go ahead and ask the port for a $500,000 increase in your amount because you're going to need it. No matter whether it's today or 6 months from now, you're going to need it. and go ahead and make that ask of the port and find out where they are with it. They're not, they get reimbursed that money, so it's not like they're not getting that money back. You've agreed to pay them back that money at some point in the future.
Interest free.
Yes. So I would say go ahead and approve this. Go ahead and ask the port for an increase to 500,000, see what they say. And if they say no, then you're going to have a conversation about using your toll revenue. But I think you're going to have expenses that are not reimbursable. And you might as well just go ahead and address that and not hold up something that you absolutely have to do.
So just the point of fact, their February invoice was paid with pay-as-you-go toll revenue. So.
And if I can jump in here, that means it went against the loan. That's
Right.
what that designation means. Okay, I wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page about what that designation means.
I thought that might be what it meant, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Another kind of point to the timeliness of this is that this feeds back into our preparation for negotiations with Kiewit. So there is a component of their costs around expected taxes and fees. And so that's Tay's primary concern and the timeliness that he's communicated to us is that we're the amount of time that Baker Tilly is requiring to do this work doesn't give us a lot of preparation time to be able to turn around and respond to Kiewit with what they will propose for that tax cost element of their proposal.
Yeah, this is Mark Reno. I would second that I have heard that timeliness is a consideration in awarding this contract.
And this is a new contract.
It's a new task order. It's a new task order on an existing contract. Back to it.
Is that
it
accurate?
says contract?
I believe it is.
I thought it was
It's a new contract. I don't believe that we're increasing the total. So Baker Tilly came back to us and said that this scope of work was significantly different than the original master services agreement that we had with originally signed with Moss Adams. And so they wanted to have it under the Baker Tilly name.
That's correct. This is a new master services agreement with a specific task order attached to it that is in the Baker Tilly name.
Mark, was there anything that's significant between the Baker Tilly and the Moss Adams agreements that are notable?
No, I mean, these types of arrangements are unfortunately not terribly advantageous to the agency. Their professional services contracts, they limit their liability in fairly severe terms. They limit liability to the amount of fees paid. You don't get a lot of protection out of these contracts. What you do get, and what we discussed among staff and in committee, was you get the ability to talk to funder. If you are ever found to have been underpaid in terms of taxes in the manner that you were advised by your advisors, a lot of your federal loans and federal grants will require will actually declare that you're in default if you have not complied with all federal, state, and local laws. And so the way that you defend against that is you say, well, this is a murky gray area of law as to whether we owed taxes to the state of Washington or the state of Oregon on this or that particular task. It is, this is a murky area. And to the extent that you can explain to your auditors and to your funders, your funding sources, that you took on consultants and you did your best, you made your best faith efforts to comply with the law, then that will see you very far forward, as opposed to, well, we know that Washington doesn't charge for this, and we know that Oregon doesn't charge for that, and so we tried to shift them around this way and that way so that we could avoid as many state taxes as possible. That's the position that you don't want to be in. The position that you do want to be in is, look, we hired the best that we could find, and we followed their advice.
Sorry, there's a new contract. They're allowed to do it because it's under the 75,000.
So we have a motion and a second.
Waiting on,
Is it
I've got one more comment and then I'll be quiet.
Let's do Catherine.
Yep.
Catherine.
Is it true we're using ARPA funds to pay Baker Tilly? Debbie?
No.
No, it's going against the loan that the port has extended.
Okay.
My last comment. I would vote for this under one circumstance, and that is by the next meeting, at latest the second meeting, we have a forecast from staff of what do we need to pay for going forward out of this proposed loan. This is not the way we should be doing business. We're spending money that we don't have. And we ought to be looking at a projection going forward. What's the next one? We've had two today. That's a surprise hit in this account.
You're looking for an obligation plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It feels like to me we're running blind.
I don't
like that.
We knew these were coming up.
I didn't know that. Did we know that?
Well, that's why we had the conversation today, was staff knew that this was coming up. We are tracking it against the loan, and we are tracking how much is left in the loan. You've got enough on the loan to cover you. Will you at some point between now and the end of next year need to do something on the loan? Absolutely. You need
As long as it's not next month.
No,
I don't have a warm fuzzy that it's not gonna be next month, that we're gonna have another one of.
So you've got 350,000 left in the loan. We know that there's 270,000 of that coming out from the
lobbyists. We know another
you got
60,000.
63,000 coming out, right? Which was the 340 of the 350. We knew you were close to the maximum amount you had. And we knew that this was something that was going to be coming up, is that you're going to have to do something with your available loan amount.
What I don't like about this discussion is, well, we'll fix it. We'll ask the bridge for additional money. We don't know how much additional money we need to ask for other than these three elements that we just talked about.
Right.
What's the stuff that we haven't talked about?
That wasn't part of the meeting today, was to ask for additional funds related to the loan amount. When we get to the point of doing that, we'll give you a full accounting of
But
how
I
much you
think
need.
my problem, Mike, is that you're already there with this third announcement today. We're totally out of money.
You're out of the loan
at some point. Exactly.
But you do have the ability, and you've made I think there's been a board motion that you can use the reserve money or.
But typically we have to pay that back. Our approach is to try and pay that back. How are we paying it back?
You're not going to be able to pay this back if you go against the loan. So yes, we are at the point where you need to have that conversation. We knew you were getting to that point.
What I'm asking staff is, what's the forecast of the rest of the story? Of what else is coming up that we need? If we assume we don't want to touch that toll reserve.
Yes.
That's for our TIFIA loan. If we're only asking for, how much more do we need?
We can get that to you next meeting. We knew that was coming. We've been tracking that. We had that conversation last week or the week before with Tehi that we were getting close to the maximum amount of the toll lines.
And it's the maximum amount that we can pull out of that budget, not necessarily what we need today. That's for the next year. So there's still.
But I like to run a project when we commit to something, we take that out of the checking account.
So I think the important thing to mention is that we have funds. We have funds in the loan. This is not going to be going negative in the account. We are going to have a conversation about how we continue to fund in the future for lobbying and everything else.
Yes.
And that we don't have to make any changes at this time, that staff took this into account, that there's nothing to be afraid of in this situation. Correct. With that,
thank you. So we have a motion and we have a second. And we've had a fair amount of discussion. So do we have, we'll have a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. So thank you for helping me through I think we're getting down here to the short strokes. Well, I think we've got the informational items. We were going to add the career fair in there. And I think we've got a financial update and other key messages. Did we cover that, Dan?
Nothing in addition to what's already been discussed.
Okay. So let's do the March financial report.
In the interest of time, Chair, would you want to push off the presentation?
That might be a good idea because we're right at the end here.
Yeah, this is Mark. It's not time sensitive, so whenever is the pleasure of the board.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. So let's go ahead and do Debbie, is there anything big that we need to look at on the March financial report for total
No,
revenue?
I actually don't really have anything to add. It's just there for your information. What I will do is add some additional information in the next report, and we'll have some information for you by your next meeting. But I will start to have additional. I'll add on to this report so that I can give you status updates on the loan from the port and things like that. So I will add some additional information to this report going forward for you.
The good news is we're over 9 million in that account.
That's good.
Yes, there's some good things in there.
So with that, maybe we'll jump to the career fair.
Yeah, well, I'll start it. Why don't you jump in?
And Debbie, can I just say, like with putting a quick finance hat on, 9 million in the account is that's a very healthy amount toward a TIFIA loan of what we're contemplating. So in terms of financing the ongoing needs of the agency, it seems like we're in a good position.
Yes, I do think so.
Debbie, do you know how much will go into the account starting July 1st?
It won't change. So I know we probably should do a quick presentation on that too, but not today. So the money that the port was transferring into the general fund, that will end, but all the money will stay in the bridge fund now. And there isn't, the money that was being transferred was not, I mean, that money will stay in the fund going forward because it will go towards the maintenance of the existing bridge. And then if there's anything left over, it'll go to replacement at the end. So it isn't really changing what the bridge authority gets. You still just get the additional toll revenue. The money will stay in the bridge fund because we won't be using it in the general fund, but it's still the port's money. And it's still needed, if our estimates are right, it's still going to be needed for maintenance on the existing bridge. So it's not really going to change what the bridge authority is getting.
Debbie, let me make sure I understand what you said, because I think I misinterpreted. So the money that's going into the authority's account for the new bridge each month, that source remains the same.
Exactly.
So
yes.
In July and August and September, that account's going to continue to grow.
Yes.
The account over at the port, that account is getting solidified that any remaining toll money goes into that particular account. And that account can only be used to either repair and maintain the existing bridge, or down the road, that transfers over to the new bridge.
That is exactly right. Yes.
Okay, I'm fine.
It would be fair to say, does that mean that there will be no transfers out of that fund into the port general fund, which I assume was the mechanism by which you previously did this?
Exactly. Yes.
So you are terminating the transfers into the general fund from that fund.
Yes.
Good. That's nice and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other clarification is that there won't be any large one-time transfers out of the bridge account prior to July 1, right?
No, there is one budgeted for the current fiscal year that will happen by June 30th that was budgeted and allowed under the existing resolution. And then starting July 1, there will be no more transfers after that.
Resolution set the amounts that they were going to.
Is July 1 that account going to be zero?
No, you mean the bridge fund? The bridge
No,
fund
the
has
port.
3 or 4
The
million.
Port Bridge Fund.
Yeah, the Port Bridge Fund has about $3 or $4 million in it.
So in July.
In July, it will have somewhere between $3 and $4 million.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the way the old tolls were structured, just really quickly, 50 cents of the existing toll right now is unrestricted completely. The port can do anything with it, basically, legally. And then the addition, any toll on top of that is restricted and has been for a number of years, any toll on top of the 50 cents. What we're saying now is that 50 cents per crossing stays with the bridge also. So that's all that's changing, is that initial 50 cents was unencumbered in any way whatsoever. Now going forward, it has to stay with the bridge.
And Debbie, what you're saying is that the amount that has been reserved to date toward the debt service reserve for a TIFIA loan is in the neighborhood of $9 million. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
For $120 million loan. I mean, that's a significant cash funded reserve for that type of a federal loan.
Well, I think PFM was wanting around 15 million in there.
Yes.
So that's we keep moving towards the 15 to 20 million is what we'd really like to have in there. And it will continue. It will continue to go in as it has. The additional toll revenue from the toll increase in September of 2023 is dedicated to that process of getting that into your fund to fund the reserve.
Well, okay. Thanks for clarifying that because I thought 10-ish was where we were, but not 15 to 20-ish. But thank you.
10-ish is good. We keep going. We keep going.
All right. So career fair.
Yeah, real quick. 5/21, May the 21st, we're having a career day out at the port. We've contacted 5 local high schools. And we've contacted how many unions?
We've got between unions, businesses, and agencies, we've got 30 on the list, and about 20 of them are confirmed.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is bring craft people together with high schoolers and talk about a career in the craft or work like our bridge or heavy construction and so on. We contacted 5 local schools. We've got signups for 250 kids minimum. There's other schools that are being, I guess, worked as far away as Pendleton that may be sending kids down here as well for that day. We're working with some companies locally to get some construction equipment temporarily brought out onto the site. So the idea is to have a kind of surround of craft little tables and so on that kids can go up and talk to them about careers and training and so on. And in the center of this on the lot, we'll have a bunch of equipment that they can kind of walk around and touch and look at. Some of the crafts are bringing in trailers that showcase like welding and electrical work and stuff like that. So we're trying to make it into a community relations thing that we're helping give back to the community, especially the high school juniors, sophomore, juniors. Seniors are almost too late. They're about to graduate. They've got their plans, but targeting sophomores and juniors.
I would suggest that as this is documented, this is actually, there's an administration initiative on this line. And so this might be one of the things that we send to the Department of Transportation in support of our program. So we have a definite program which matches this.
So one of the things that we're going to have to think about is one, we'd like all the commissioners to be part of this thing on that Thursday. And 2, who should we invite from the local political arena? to try and take some advantage of this. I personally see this as, and could help us attract funds from both feds and states, because we're trying to give back and we're trying to build a workforce. So that's just a heads up. Kiewit's going to bring in some equipment. We've got Hood River Sand and Gravel going to bring down a truck. We've got Hood River Co-op is going to bring a line truck.
Allied American.
Allied American.
Building a BNSF bridge. They're bringing up some stuff. And WashDOT's bringing out some equipment.
And not included is tribal. They're being invited. So we may get some kids from the 4 treaty tribes. So we're trying to make it into a nice event.
I would just say, make sure that you advertise and mention that we're having a public meeting if you're asking the entire body to be there.
Yeah. You have to do that, even if it's just an event without any meeting or decision. If you guys are all going to be at a.
The safest thing to do, because then we
All
don't
the
have to worry
public
about it's the
meeting.
perception. If we're seeing together, yeah, we're all there actually, you know, if
Talking
you go
about
to
a
movie,
bridge.
you sit and watch a movie, obviously you're not talking during the movie, so that's easier, but in this case, it's just much easier if we.
Just announce
If we
it as a
announce
public
it.
meeting.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
But the current law, don't you have to provide, online access to then?
Not to the meeting, because it's
Under the governance.
not going to be a regular meeting.
Got Mark there, Mark?
So
You're on mute.
Mark, did you hear the question?
I do not. No, I'm fine.
Okay, so we're having a career fair basically, and because we're inviting all the commissioners, we thought the easiest thing was to notice it as a meeting. But I seem to recall that Oregon changed their meeting law that requires all meetings to be accessible remotely. Does that affect things like this? Are we required
So
to have an open mic?
Yeah. So I mean, my position on this was that it's not really a meeting. You're not deliberating or making decisions. If you want to have a career fair, that's fine without noticing it as a meeting. But if you do notice it as a meeting and want to treat it as a meeting, then the best practice would be to have it available on Zoom and notice the meeting as available to people coming into this meeting room where you are now, and just have that, if they want to come in or if they want to Zoom in, then they can. But a career fair really is not. You're not deliberating or making policy decisions. I don't view it as something that's, even if you appear as a quorum, you're not making decisions on behalf of the agency.
It'd be very tough to do a Zoom call on 5 acres.
Yeah. I mean, you are absolutely allowed to do, fact-finding missions, inspections, site inspections, those kinds of things where you're receiving information from people, but not making, deliberative decisions that affect the future of the agency without noticing it. Now, you're welcome to notice it and say, the board will be appearing here, but I don't think you're required to comply with the specifics under the public meetings law.
Could you make a notice and then just say that there will be no remote access?
I don't see the advantage we have of making this a meeting. We don't have to.
Yeah.
It just opens up.
Then
we're not complying with meeting requirements. So.
Just notice that you're going to be there.
I mean, it's totally up to you. It's you can certainly publicize that you're attending this event, and that the public is welcome to attend as well.
Could we put that information on our next agenda, and then that would be memorialized?
As I say, I don't view this type of activity where you are attending this event and not making deliberative decisions in furtherance of agency activity, and so you have pretty much a free hand as to how you want to treat this with the public. you can put it on your website. You can, but there's no requirements as, you know, there's no specific requirements like we have to do this, because you're not intending to take action at your gathering.
Did that last week. They had a workshop and they just specifically said that there would be no action or decisions made.
This is in Oregon though. That's the difference.
So I would say that if we post it on our website, that the board will be meeting for this event, that there would be a quorum there, but no action would be taken.
I think that's prudent, and I'm happy to.
Attending, yes.
Attending.
Yeah, I'm happy to send you an email with language to that effect.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my pleasure.
So we've got some future things. I'd like to just skip those and we'll hit it next week since we're over, or next time since we're over time. Next meeting is Monday, May 11th, 2 to 4 here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question for you.